Hi everybody and welcome back to the oil painting channel. Today I've got a lovely puffin for you, so let's roll that intro. Let's see how we get on. Hi everybody and welcome back. Now, as I said at the start, I'm going to be doing a lovely puffin for you today. I did this as a stream to my patrons a few months ago, and I looked at the footage recently and I felt that it would make a wonderful presentation for you guys and girls on YouTube. So that's what I've done. I've chopped it about a little bit, added a bit of music, but you've got the nuts and bolts, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the film and I'm sure you'll get something from it in your own artistic endeavors. I love puffins. I've never seen one in the wild. I will make that a correction at some point in the future because they're just fantastic to see and even better to paint. So without further ado, let's get on. Let's get this one underway. What I'm going to first and foremost do is I'm going to put a little bit of my sort of zested mix and a little bit of umber, a little bit of that lovely burnt sienna, and I'm just going to literally go and coat the surface of this board. I'm going to put that brush to one side, take a piece of kitchen towel and literally burnish it up, polish it up, take the excess off. But now I'm going to use a smaller brush just to start sketching with, trying to see where we go with this bird. And I'm going to draw in burnt sienna, and to that end I'm using possibly one, possibly two mediums tonight. Now I'm going to tip them a little way, you can see. This one is liquid, and it's the normal standard original liquid. It's quite thixotropic. It will slide around if if you put it on your palette, it will slide around. Unlike the impasto version, it's the same product, just a little bit thicker. This one is the original. This, however, as you can see, it's like cream in there, and it is much more fluid. This is called liquid fine detail, and if you get down where you want that sort of extra fine detail and you still want the ability to have some drying going on, that's what you use liquid for, is to allow it as a drying agent. Okay, now here we start getting the fun. Here we got to start plotting the drawing of our bird, and I want to sort of have a little bit of room behind it. When you've got a bird, or anything to that matter, where you've got something here, if it's looking in, if you put the bird here looking out of the canvas, it's got nowhere to go, it's wrong. You always have to have the animal, the bird, or the person, whichever way they're looking, give them room in front of their gaze, give them room in the direction that they're moving, give them room in the way their head is turned, give them room in front, less behind, more in front. And it also helps with the design and the idea of having sort of proportions and a good composition. So I can sort of really plot the bird's head somewhere up there, give me an idea, and I can start making this in jerky little movements there, and I'm sort of coming back down here and I'm just planting the ideas of my bird, and it comes down into the back of the neck, down the back, quick marks. I can adjust these anywhere I want to. Now I've got to be careful here. We could be considered getting a little close to where our back part is. So we've got the idea of this in place. Let's just bring it forward about 3/4 of an inch or so, something like that. And then that gives me room to bring the tail and the feathers in place. The wing flights here, which cross over, you can just see that one poking underneath there. And then you've got the back coming down, and underneath for the stubby little tail that is probably used more for steerage underwater than it is for any other purpose in flight. These are very clumsy in flight, but they are absolute masters when it comes to being underwater. Now I'm feeling my way, and this is Alla Prima. As we know, the whole idea of this painting is to paint the whole subject. And I've got to try and do this one. I know darn well in the past, certainly with some of my oils, that they can take weeks to do. And that's true. This one could take weeks as well. But I actually set myself a little discipline today that I wanted to do one in one sitting. Now, I have no idea of the how that's going to work out, but we shall see. Now, I already did a bit of measuring. I hold my brush at arm's length and I move it and I look at it in relation to the top of the head to where the neck is, and I move that down, and that is one head roughly to the point of the chest, and then one just to the top of the elbow. So if I take my head, this is the head that I've created, bring that down somewhere here, but out here somewhere is where the point of the chest is. If I take that same measurement again, bring it on down from there, here, somewhere about there is where the feet come down here to where the elbow is, and then of course we've got the last bit of the foot disappearing into the grass. So that gives me some idea of how to plot these two areas in relation to the head size. Now I'm going to take the size of the head on the bird, beak included, to the back of that little sharp bit here, and I'm going to run that in from that point there across to the tail. It's almost, if I take, I haven't actually drawn the beak in yet, which would help, wouldn't it? I just pretend I've got the beak in, and a very, very deep old beak. Always looks like it's been stuck on with super glue. But if I take that sort of shape and I put that from the back of the tail to about there, not far off. Now, there is where I'm saying, and there's where I'm saying. So this is got to be just slightly smaller. Let's just take the top of the beak out for a minute and just bring it down to about there. This is trial and error. Everything at this stage is not set in stone. Taking the measurement from back of the tail, where the wings end, then out to there. That's somewhere closer. So we can sort of bring that out like that to that lovely rounded chest. And then we can bring that lovely belly coming in all the way down to where these feet are. Now, another thing, check where the hips are. Now, if I look at where the eye is, they are there. If I put the eye about here, and I'm just literally just tapping a little shape in, pretending that's the eye. Maybe right, maybe wrong right now. I may have to change it. I'm not too sure yet. But we shall start to look at that little area in a moment. But I know if I drop a line straight down, it's got to be well ahead of this, and it's not. So that area here has actually got to come there, and then I can bring my foot down. Now, is that correct? Well, I think it is. I think that we've got an angle up. If I put a line up from the legs, it just comes inside that head area there. So maybe just marginally a little forward, something like that, I think will be our position of our feet. Check this again. This looks a little bit paunched. So I might just bring that and soften that mark there a little bit. And then I can bring that down there. No, we're not looking too bad. I hope I'm thinking this correctly. I'm going to raise the head up a little bit. These are little decisions that, according to the drawing, may or may not be right. I think they're correct things to do. But the painting is not yet started in earnest, and so I have got lots of maneuverability. I'm going to drop that down, let that come in there. And my puffin is looking terrible right now, I've got to say. I'm just going to draw and keep going until I'm probably a little happier, I hope, with this fella. elbow going down into the grass, and of course we've got the back one there. Now this is interesting because that comes down and back up, allowing for much less of this other foot, this other leg, to be seen behind. So maybe that's where we should be with that. Maybe that's where it should go. And let's just bring that down there so it can travel down under there and up again. Little bit of umber kicking into one or two bits of it, but essentially it is just burnt sienna, and that's all I've been using. I'm going to take that down, and I'm refining my drawing because I'm saying that in this whole endeavor, this whole painting, it's not, I mean, if it was a landscape you were doing and you got a bit of a tree out of shape or not quite the right size or something like that, you can get away with quite a bit. But when you're painting something that is so identifiable, people may not be ornithologists or that way inclined, but they will soon know if you've got the puffin looking about right, and they'll soon tell you if it's not. Alright, now one of the things that I often say is you can put a nice bright mark on to get things rolling. You can set up some of your lights to some of your darks very early on, putting a little bit of Indian yellow, a little bit of lemon yellow to my white, just to give me that really bright light that I want in here. Now I'm only doing it here so I can see just how light I need to make this. I may be able to get this a little whiter later. There's quite a bit of mix in here in terms of fluid from my liquid. Let's get rid of that somehow. A little bit of yellow ochre into the side of it. I just want to bring that sort of greenish ochreish colour down there. Okay. I just kind of come in here now, and I'm just putting in these first area of these darks under there and up through to the back of the head here. Definitely trying to keep my brush marks clean. Now there's a little bit of brush mark going on in here, and that's partly because of the pigments we're using. There is a bit of ultramarine blue, but there's a little bit of oil in my umber, a little bit more than maybe I would like, and it's sort of allowing the brush marks to pop through. So I'm going to mix up some cobalt. I'm going to bring some of that white into my cobalt, a little bit more fluid just to make it move. I'm going to bring a little white to that. I'm going to just bring some colour down to our bird. Now this may not be the final colour of the sea, but it is certainly giving us a nice shape, and it was starting to look at how dark and light that really is. So I'm going to bring some of my yellow ochre, some of my cobalt together. Makes a bit of a grungy green grass. A little bit of phthalo in there to give it a greener look. Just going to come in here and very quickly splosh it around to suggest a difference between the two areas. Now I'm just going to bring a little bit of a weak, dirty solution into these feathers. These are these sort of feathers that are down underneath the wing coverts here. Quite dark, quite blackish, and they get stronger, but I'm just putting them in a weak umber at the moment and can strengthen them further on. And while I'm just playing around here, I'm just going to take this up here, the C, a little bit more white to that, a little bit of the cobalt, got a bit of green in it. That's not too much of a worry. Just going to play around with this. I don't think I want to put any landform above, really. I just want to have the head of the bird nice and stuck into the blue void, sea or sky, whatever you want it to be. You could almost take the top of the sea to a third and a third here, and you could make a sky above if you want to do that, or a land mass as is suggested by the photo. It really is your choice. Anyway, enough, because I'm just going to play around with this bit just to get that over the top of the bird's head and away. And I'm going to come in with some white into my blues. Now, you could achieve a similar look by having a reduced palette. I've not got so much of a reduced palette, but I'm using very similar colors throughout areas. So I'm just lightening up now and suggesting some of the feather catching the sheen on the back of the bird. Now, I don't want to just paint a white. I'm going to sort of mix this up a little bit. I just want to suggest the shoulders there over the feathering. Right, take that dark up through there. Now, one dark you can make is a different dark is Magenta and Phithalo Green. They give you a very different black, and that can be useful because it can take the black in a different direction. You see a different dark, you're not quite sure what you're seeing. It does sometimes look a little more greenish, a little more bluish, reddish, or whatever. But it's another dark you can create, and because they are transparent colors, you can get to use them very simply, very easily, very effectively. I'm going to use that dark in the pupil of the eye too, and from there I can create the rest of the eye as needed. But while I've got that green going, let's come in with some blue into there. Make that sort of dirty blue. Quite a nice blue, but it's that blue that's in the beak. Just going to pop that in before we go much further. Just a bit more paint. There was not enough paint on there before. Bring that down there and doing the same thing here. Using that green that's already there, I can add to it, come back into it and enhance it further. I just want to take it down a little bit right now. Trying to get that lovely, crisp, sharp edge to the back there. And it gets very, very shadowy down under here, because obviously at this point it's turning away from the light source a little bit. But it's gone very, very green in mine, very, very blue-green. So how am I going to combat that? I'm going to put some orange directly into my bluish-green colour. Not too much. And mix some down here. And that will help neutralise some of this greenish look. By adding a little bit of orange to it, you can see it's turning it to a warmer but grey colour. And if you can't get that light colour right next to the black, then make the colour next to it on the white here just a little darker, and it will throw that white out. It's always a good thing to bear in mind. And I'm going to put a little bit of aqua colour across here. Let's give it a little bit of 3-dimension. And I really want to put in a bit of light into that orange. I'm not getting it in the minute, so I'm just going to play around with that for a second or two. I'm going to leave it at that. If I feel that I really ought to do something more to it later, I can do that. But I'm quite happy with that as it is at the moment. Just going to come back in here and just shape that into there a little more, which gives a sense of that sort of pushing forward over the eye, giving it that little dark, clownish look, as it were. and there is a very, very faint dark edge coming all the way down. Now I'm using a very small rigger, 0, to just pull that into place. Okay, I best stop there because I know I'm just going to mess it up. Alright, so let's look at our ready oranges and let's just move over. I should use a mole stick so that I don't have to rest on any of the painting. And I'm going to bring the shape of the red in. Bring some light down across the top of the beak. Now it needs more refining. Depends how far you want to take that refinement. I'm just something I can make a decision on, as can you. But you could do that further in. You don't have to make that decision at this point. Just keep painting, keep getting it going, and you will make a decision on how much more you want to put into the beak itself. Softening now, a little bit of blending, soften some of the shapes that we're seeing. Some of them are hard, some of them are not so hard. You just got to pick between them and get the right edge to them. And it is about edges. Now the thing is that you'll get a softer edge working it with something like the dagger, that if you use a rigger you'll get a harder edge, because you know the brush is just leaving the paint to come off, as it were, and it will leave quite a hard edge to it. And we've got that little kick out now. We've got that curved sharp edge there, and we've got a kick out this way there. Bit of dry brush. You can start to see how you can make some of these shapes come down a little looser. Now this is sort of me doing a little better on what I promised myself that I wanted to do with this painting. Not to get bogged down, but it's very hard not to when you've got something that needs to be quite exacting, as that fella does around his head. But hopefully I can have a little bit more of a play when it comes to darks and lights into the rest of this animal, this bird. Okay, I'm going to bring some blue values, but using some of that sort of phthalo green in the blue. Just bring that into the chest area of the bird here. And very much in evidence underneath, but there's a lot more orange being put into that. So I'm going to bring that colour in. Okay. Now to that, I want to make a distinction because we've got that dark underneath. You get a lot of yellow into that, greens, but there's a lot of yellow ochre I feel in the bottom end of this bird here, reflecting all that grass underneath. But that could become a problem because I need to get some light in here. I need to get that light grass colour, and I'm not hitting the mark. We can see the bird is standing, we've got lights and darks, and I think we're pretty much okay. There may be some slight messing around with that later on, but I think we're not bad with that. Bring a little bit of reddy colour into some of this green colour here. Just a little bit here and there over here. Now where white feathers come across black, leave that very subtle ghostly black, so it's a bit of a bluish colour that you're seeing. Not much of it, but you do see a bit of it. Just going to tap that in, use my finger and cheat a little bit and just drag that white into place again. And then I'm going to try and attempt this thigh. I want to get a nice dollop of light onto that. But it's all getting very, very sort of creamy with other colours. So there's a very big danger of losing some of the intensity. And I'm trying to put the colour on in sort of single taps. Now that doesn't mean to say I'll pick up half a tube of white paint and just throw it at the canvas. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to sort of give it the degree of light that it needs to work. And I don't want to necessarily just overdo it by throwing paint at it. I want to come in with some blue. I just want to play around with some of this sea, and in particular there I've got a bit of dark. I'm going to put some more blue into this dark, come back in here with this sort of dark colour that we had going on here earlier. I want to come in and just gently soften the arch in the back there. Okay, let's just get this to a point of closure. I think time is cracking on. Here just to suggest some lights and darks into our grass. I don't want to get too heavy with my darks because there's a lot under here, and I'm going to put some darks in sort of around the bird so it looks like it's got some shadowing right underneath it. It's not solid shadow because we've got grasses, of course, and they are blades of grass, so they're not giving absolute shadows, but I'm just thinking that we're suggesting a few of them. Using the blunt edge of this straight actually to give me some very thick impressionistic looking bits of grasses in the immediate foreground, as it were, just to break it up. If you get too sort of, very easy to go in with a rigger and make some very, very fine marks with grass shapes, and indeed I might put some of those in, but I'm just sort of really sort of being a little random with some of these shapes in here that are suggesting bits of grass. But there we are, one puffin as an Alla Prima, pretty much. Okay everybody, I had a lot of fun doing that. I certainly enjoyed the process when I did it as a stream to my patrons a few months ago. They enjoyed the process, and I'm sure you got something from it as well to take on in your own artistic endeavors. Now, if you have enjoyed this film, if you've enjoyed my other oils as well, please give it a thumbs up, and that tells YouTube that it's a channel that is worth promoting. Now, it's a very, very young channel, and I would love it if you would, if you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing to the channel. It's absolutely free without any comeback to you at all. You're just supporting the channel and helps tell the algorithms within YouTube that it's worth pushing. So that would be fantastic if you would do that. And if you've got any comments of something you would like to see me paint in the future, or indeed about this or any other of my videos, please put them down there. I'll always answer them. I love to read them. That would be fantastic. And if you are not just an oil painter, but you love or enjoy watercolors, then why not look at my other channel on YouTube? It's a pure watercolor channel. There's so much on there. It's being added to each week. And if you want even more than that, well, hey, let me invite you to take a look at my Patreon. It's a pure watercolor Patreon. It's growing all the time. There are over 100 of videos, full-length videos for you to enjoy, look at, enjoy, and get something from. I just said enjoy, but you know what I mean. Take a look at that, and I'd welcome you on board as my latest patron if you should be so inclined. With all that said and done, happy painting, everybody. I wish to catch you all in the next video. Thank you very much for the support you're showing the channel, and until the next time, take care, everybody. Bye bye. So let's roll that intro. Let's just stop that. It's not good. Welcome back. Now, as I said at the start, yeah. Start again then. Welcome back to the oil painting channel. Oil channel. Today I've got a wonderful puffin for you. So in oil, yes, it's in oil. I'm gonna get something from it, and if so, no, not that bit, is it? Wrong bit. I was doing all right till then. Lovely puffin for you today. Now I don't. For you today, I haven't. I have, because you wouldn't be seeing it. So again, the characters, and they are found in certain parts of. No, I'm not going to get into that. We don't ever. I've never actually got no. And I love to see images of them, and I'm just rambling on, and I do apologise so much. So if you really have enjoyed this,